Hello, and welcome to The Forecast, a new day. My name is Najeema Davis Washington, and I am your host for this episode, the Independence Day episode, July 5th, 2020. The Forecast is a video podcast built on 5 tenets: disrupt, sustain, the watchdog, local lens, and hope lights the way. Today, I am very happy to be joined by my uncle and esteemed guest, retired Brigadier General Henry Taylor. Thank you so much, Uncle Henry, for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So we're just going to have a conversation like we normally have at Thanksgiving or at other family gatherings where you talk about your experience as a Black man from the South, as a Black man who's risen through the ranks in the military, who has a family, who's traveled the world. You have so much to just share with us. So please give us a brief introduction about your life and sort of your philosophy. I want to guide you just a little bit. You're big on the Constitution.
Absolutely.
So I'm just going to say go.
Okay. As you mentioned, I'm Hank Taylor. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, and I grew up at a time when we were actually being governed by the rules of Jim Crow. And halfway through my high school time, which I graduated in 1967, halfway through high school, that started to change. And it started to change because of some significant gains as a result of the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Act in '64 and the Voters' Right Act in 1965 gave us a different playing field from which to pursue opportunities in America and being African American in America. So that kind of set the stage for my life. After high school, I went to college for a year, then I went to Vietnam, went back to college, graduated '75, got a commission in the Air Force where I spent 30 years as a commissioned officer in the United States Air Force. I left active duty in 2005, came back home, and I've been actively involved in many things, mainly economic development. I sit on several boards, I chair a bunch of them, and so I've been very, very active. And so, as you might well imagine, in today's environment, I've been getting a lot of questions about what does it mean to be an African American in our society today. So it's a pleasure for me to be here with you to talk a little bit about that and any of the other subjects you want to talk about. But I'm certainly looking forward to starting. If you want me to start off by how I see where we are today in our country and in the world, well, I think, to be quite honest with you, we're at a crossroads in America today. We're at a crossroads because we have 3 major forces playing on our society at the same time. We have the challenges of a public health challenge and an economic challenge brought on by the pandemic of the COVID virus. We have a relook at our racial relationships in our country brought on by, videos of people actually being maltreated to death just because of the color of their skin. And then the third thing I think we have playing on us that shapes a challenging time for our country is the fact that we're in politics season.
Yes.
We're getting ready to select a new president. And I think that's all 3 of those things are very, very important. I'm not sure they're mutually supporting or mutually exclusive. I think each has its own challenge and risks. The common theme, though, is that we have to look for the right leadership. And hopefully that's something that we can talk about here in a little bit. But that's kind of, I see that sets up the challenges for us nationally. Internationally, if you think about it, the 3 major parties that shaped the post-World War II world, there's only one still surviving. That's the United States.
Right.
The Soviet Union is gone. The colonial empire of Great Britain is gone. So we're the only one left, and I certainly see some challenges to that position that we have in the world. based on our current leadership. So I'll just use those as kind of framing, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's great. There's that's you can keep talking, or we can pivot, or I can jump in, or I agree with you. You know, to see the U.S. still standing, the only one still standing post World War II, and then thinking about the encroachment of China and the USSR, and how the globalization that I talked about in February on MSNBC. It's unbelievable the things that are going on, and how technology has allowed us to eliminate so many barriers and rush into places where you know, economically, educationally, where certain people shouldn't have a presence. So, yes, but to bring it back, I have been trying to sort of categorize or you know, describe exactly where we are, and it perhaps I'm too anthropological in my thinking, but we're at a cultural revolution. But yes, between pandemic, which has exposed so many of the ills in our society. It is unfortunate. Actually, I don't know. Is it unfortunate? It's
I think the thing, and again, these two things are probably playing with each other right now. The pandemic has pointed out some of the historical disparities that we've seen in terms of the layers within our society. You know, right now we're seeing what we call vulnerable populations paying the price for the effects of the COVID virus. Now, I've been actively involved in us as a region, the three counties around Charleston, trying to safely get back to the economic challenges while making sure we're taking care of the health challenges as well. And one of the things that's come out, and I think is going to shape actions going forward, are some of these lingering disparities. I'm talking about disparities in healthcare, disparities in education. As an example, when the school systems went to virtual dispensation of instruction,
yes,
we found, I think in Charleston County, it was like 17% of the people, they couldn't reach them. They couldn't contact the kids because they didn't have all of the connections to the internet and all those things that would allow that to happen. So, and historically, we know educational disparities have existed.
yes,
And then you get to housing disparities pointed out by the pandemic, and then economic disparities. You know, a lot of the frontline are quote essential jobs.
right,
Our jobs are performed by minority communities who can't work from home, who can't be virtual in their interaction with the world, and consequently, we see them paying the price in terms of the attraction of the virus, and then of course some of the most negative outcomes from the viruses as well.
yeah.
So, you know, I think, and here's the thing, Najim, I think that makes two things play together. These disparities are now front and center for us as a community. The magnification, the spotlight has been either further magnified by this attention to racial disparities,
Yes,
you know, brought on by the demonstrations, protestings, and really, to be quite honest with you, brought on with the videos of human beings being treated less than having less value, and we see them in front of us just
black
die.
and brown bodies.
And
Yes,
so I think these two things are really causing communities across our region as well as across our state and the nation to look seriously at how do we go and address some of these things. Now, and that brings us to the third part, which is the political part, whereby I think our national leadership right now is a bit anachronistic in terms of the positions they're taking. And I'm speaking specifically of presidential leadership. I think they're building a world that our country is really trying to get past and get around. And so I think these three things coming together is gonna set up for a new day. I think when we start talking about normal going forward, it will be under different circumstances. And I guess if I were to foot stomp something relative to the political challenges we're having,
mm-hmm.
is that, you know, one thing, and you mentioned I'm a firm believer in the Constitution. There's a magic instrument in the Constitution called the vote.
Yes,
And that magic instrument has never been so important as it is right now, because I think we'll see when we get to the presidential election stark differences between the people who will be running for president. Stark differences. I
Yes.
mean, it's not nuances, it's not dog whistle type differences, it is stark differences. And so I think the exercise of the vote this time is one of those instruments in the Constitution that's going to be superbly important, supremely important. And for those who have the ability to vote, I say vote. I won't say vote and vote often, but vote and take a lot of people with you to go vote as well, because I think that's very, very important coming out.
Well, thank you very much. I think we'll take a pause right there. I want to thank you for tuning in, viewers. I want to thank my uncle, retired Brigadier General Henry Taylor, for joining me today on this first installment of The Forecast, the Independence Edition, as we talk about Black America, the future of our country, the future of America's place in the international, global position and scene, and where are we going forward? Thank you again for joining me. This is Najeema, and this is A New Day. Please come back.